Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Change Collective podcast. We love bringing you inspiring stories of social leaders who've made a real difference in our community and in the larger world. Today, we have with us Shaina Ganapathy, the Community Outreach Initiatives Head and AVP at the Embassy Group. Shaina's professional and her personal journey are hugely inspirational, and we are absolutely honored to have you on the podcast, Shaina. Thank you so much for making time for us. We've had an opportunity to listen to your story and would love for you to be able to share that with our audience today. You've had over a decade and a half of professional experience and a very impressive career. And I think through your journey, you've worked with numerous companies, with the NGOs, with government entities, and really brought together almost like this smorgasbord of different organizations to run a great CSR program. And y'all have been given a lot of awards, all of that, right? But before we get into that side of things, we'd love to hear your story. How did it all begin? Sort of your origin story. We'd love to hear more about that, Shaina.
Sure. So I grew up in Karnataka and in Bangalore. And our first sort of exposure to Charter course was when, in about 12 years ago, when we were approached by a village panchayat in the north, asking us to provide them with a school building. And we really didn't know any better. So we designed a school building that typically looked like a private school. And we didn't do much research on what the government wanted us and what was their protocol. But it did turn out to be one of the nicest school buildings, and it continues to be sort of a benchmark for construction for government schools today. And that particular experience really shifted a lot of things for me personally. We realized there were so many gaps in the system, and instead of creating a separate parallel system, we realized that it's important to flesh out the gaps. There were learning gaps, resource gaps, and then see how we can plug it. And I think the embassy group at that time was also trying to figure out what we can do with our giving back and our outreach. So I think it started from there. And at that time, we were also setting up Stonehill International School. This is an IB school. It's a renowned school for IB in India today. I was part of the founding team at the international school. And we realized what the gaps were. It seemed larger at that time because you know how good a school can be. And then you had this school just next door to it, which was a government school that desperately needed help. So I think that was a shift for all of us. The leadership decided that if there is any way we should give back to the society, give back to some sort of nation building, we must educate our poorest. And I think that sort of started it all off for me. The family that owns Embassy Group, Mr. Jitu Virwani and his family, they've also sort of come into Bangalore. They've created a life for themselves in the city. And one of the things that we tried to do in our early days as Embassy Group was create a benchmark. So whether it was facility management, quality of construction, or the kind of residential apartments we did, we stood for something. We were first at something. So international school, we decided that this school is going to nurture the community around it. While it's going to be designed for the very wealthy expat families, that's how we started out. We realized that there were 6 or 7 government schools in that panchayat, and we decided that this is where we will start our work instead of creating a parallel system, which is a private school. So yeah, that's where we began.
Love it. And through the years, I mean, my wife has worked at Stonehill. We've done a lot of voluntary work with the Stonehill kids. And great to see that connection to the community, right? And I think just building that, being aware of the community around is so good. Beautiful. I think I'd love for you to share a bit about some of the work that Embassy Group has done. I think just the approach you all have taken is very unique in the CSR space. Embassy as a group is also positioned very uniquely because you all don't just work with the community or with NGOs, you also work with other corporates that work within some of your premises, right? So would love for you to share a bit about that.
Yeah, so at the heart of it all is that we are a developer, right? And we create these large tech parks, large format office parks, which not only provides jobs to multiple people in the vicinity, especially in the lower strata of the society, when it comes to facility management, etc. I think it was obvious we had to give back to the communities where we were located. So, revitalizing those communities around us, whether it was public infrastructure, drinking water, education, became an obvious, not even an ask, it became a responsibility when we were setting up these 100-acre tech parks, right? We chose to work in education. And we chose to work in the school system that serves the very needy. And we felt that if we serve the students and their families, we're actually serving that community beautifully. And we also introduced several sustainable environmental sort of solutions as well. Drinking water, as I mentioned earlier, is one big one. Pedestrian walking roads became another big one. Waste management obviously became something that we could fix. This sort of became our second bucket. Our core continues to remain in education, where throughout the academic year, from Anganwadi till they find jobs, we've been working closely with over 6,000 children. We get into hardcore education. So we realized very quickly that we couldn't do this alone, right? There was so much to do. So one of the obvious sort of ideas that we brainstormed internally at a management level was, can we tap into our corporate tenants and see what they were doing? Quite often you would see boards of our corporate tenants in some of the schools we would visit. I'll give you an example. We saw a toilet block with the ANZ board on it, and ANZ is one of our tenants at a tech park in Bangalore. So we approached them and I said, look, we understand you are in this space. So we are developers. We have certain expertise in terms of delivery. Why don't we join hands and we'll see where this goes? And today we collectively serve over 5,000 children. We've built 3 schools, large format schools. Each school has started off with 300-400 children. It's now close to 1,100 children. Just a span of 2-3 years. And this sort of helped us realize very quickly that we should do collective work, right? So as part of one of my mandates, we developed a program or a framework of giving back called Corporate Connect. And Corporate Connect essentially has 3 pillars in it. One is, identifying what we could do in the community where we are based and do a collective sort of approach where we sit down, we figure out what are the gaps and we start fixing the gaps. So that piece became the first obvious piece. And the other piece was talking to our corporate tenants in the tech parks and saying that this is what we are seeing in our immediate neighborhood. And we know you're working in these areas. How about a conversation? And then started the fun part where we started having groups of us working in different sectors. There was education, there was infrastructure, there was sustainability, skill development. So we had all these roundtables, which we internally developed. Let's say there were 50 odd corporates in a tech park, then we would have these group chats or meetings. We called it the Embassy Engage series, and very quickly got in a representative from the Department of Education or skilling or as may be. And we would actually sit down and sort of plug into the government's larger program. This became essential. Embassy had great relationships in our liaising with the government because we were developers. So we brought in the expertise of bringing permissions, all the initial steps of starting off a project as something that my team offers, pro bono to the whole project team. We're also helping connect people. So if there is a problem and there is a resource and there is an NGO who's an expert, we try and align everybody into the same room and into the same conversation. We've completed 75 projects. Wow. We've mobilized over 29 or 30 of our corporate tenants who do repeat work with us. And today, I think the government, as I was telling you earlier, is very conscious of the fact that the corporates need to be leveraged in a very professional manner. So they do come forward and really help us achieve the end. So we currently run a health program, which is in 4 geographies. We're in Noida, Maharashtra, Bangalore and Chennai. And we work with 4 of our corporate tenants and we reach over 45,000 students every year. There's a preventive healthcare. And I don't think as Embassy we could have achieved that number. And all of us have been in this healthcare, the 4 partners together for over 4-5 years now. So we go back and repeatedly invest. We're always looking to improve the process, and it's been very, very fruitful.
Love that. And I think just your ability to sort of bring government, corporate, NGO community together is
Yeah.
almost unheard of in the CSR space, right? And I think it's very unique, and I can't wait to see more of it happen, right? Especially in the days to come. Beautiful. I think another strong ethos y'all have had at Embassy is volunteering, right? Love for you to share a bit about how y'all have integrated that ethos of volunteering into some of your programs, into giving back into the community, both from the school, from corporate partners, all of that.
So initially, it was not something that we were doing by design. So we started off by creating a framework for volunteering as well. So there's a bouquet of volunteering options that we can have. We began taking inputs from I Volunteer, a service that sort of helped us do a roundtable in one of our tech parks with all the CSR representatives, all the HR people came in, and we all sort of discussed what each one was doing. We realized that there was so much we could do together again. So my role really is to design this whole idea. We bring in partners. So we work closely with a few partners, whether it's a half day out in a village where they can do some community cleanups, we can do a hotspot cleaning or a lake project or a health initiative in a government school where we build awareness for children. So these are like curated, and then we share it with our corporate partners, and we regularly get calls saying that, guys, we have resources for us. We don't charge anything again. We do it as part of our value add.
Wow.
We sometimes provide them buses from Manyata Tech Park to travel and come back. In COVID, during the peak of the second wave, all the people who had volunteered with us came forward and said, what can we do?
Wow.
There was so much of money given out by these employees. They said, where can it go? Can you tell us where we can pull the money? So I remember we collected over 4 crores just from volunteers in our tech park. The Department of Education was conducting 10th grade exams in Karnataka, and they needed help. They needed sanitizers, they needed masks to reach every nook and corner of Karnataka. All the police in Bangalore needed masks and sanitizers every day. So we used this money. It was an employee giving. It was amazing. And at Embassy and at Stonehill International School, we have a very structured CAS program where students, the teachers, and the parents nurture the communities around them. So there's a lot more fun there. We have sports, we have art and craft, we have storytelling. A lot of students get support in higher education as well. So all of that goes on around the school ecosystem.
And so inspiring to see people not just give, their time, but also say, hey, we're willing to fund this together at an individual level, right? And I think tough times definitely sometimes bring the best out of people together. And it's so good to see that. And I think you've built a culture where people can come forward and really do that.
I think key thing about it is the time that we have and a team that I have. A lot of corporates struggle, and our management was very clear. If you do this, you do this in a structured, professional way. So I have colleagues dedicated to volunteering and event management. I have partners who have been told, if we fund you, be ready, because we are going to send in volunteers. And we've created little programs at every end. So we're not grappling, and it's all set, in its ways. So that helps.
Yeah. And I think that's creating that platform, right? Because when you build it, they will come. There's no opportunity. People have no space to volunteer. And I think that's great thinking, and I think a great space to be in also.
There was more number of hours given to volunteering, though. The mandate. Because when you volunteer, you need to be able to connect, not just do a 1 year, you just go for half a day. And
definitely. Yeah. We have about, 3,000 volunteers at you and I, out of which maybe about 30-40% actually are corporate employees. And they give anywhere from 2.5 hours a week to about 6 to 7 hours a week. So it's great to see people, even when they transition from being in college, which is when most people volunteer, once they move to working in corporate, also still give back consistently, like in long-term volunteering.
Yeah,
and it's good to see that, right? It's good to have those opportunities and for people to actually commit to that. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Would love to hear for you, where did the seeds of social action start for you personally? Like for you, where did your journey in terms of I want to be in this space where I can create social change, all of that. How did that start for you?
So I think it again goes back to, I was talking to you about Mr. Virwani's family. They own the embassy group, right?
Yeah.
So they were displaced during the partition and they came with just what they could carry. And when they arrived in Bombay and later into Bangalore, they rebuilt their lives from scratch, right? And that understanding of having lost everything and also to be able to be very progressive in their thinking to say that education can be the leveler. That sort of commitment helped me to chart what we could do to give back. While we were developers, etc., and we had the know-how on how to construct, we very quickly realized that we can't poke holes with the government. I mean, you can do it and you can sit on the sidelines. You have to jump in, you have to help, right? And every bit of work that we could do, what I've seen so far, has helped the government to do that much more, right?
Nice. Yeah.
We as a corporate can bring in 10 crores a year, or we can hire 200 teachers every year for them. That's that much less that they have to deal with. I think that's really influenced the way we give back. We also just got in one of the big fours and we looked at the entire group and we realized that we were all giving back. Not giving back with a project in mind. We had no measuring. We were donating money at every end because it was required and people would come and ask and they'd need it. But then we decided that if we have a platform, we have projects, we have areas that we want to focus on and do a 3 to 6 year commitment, you actually will make a shift than just giving 50,000 or 1 lakh or 5 lakhs in ad hoc. So consolidating that again was a management decision.
And I think that intentionality is really key to have, right? From get-go, saying, hey, we want to play the long game. We want to create change, not just in 6 months or in a year, but really want to sort of see that change happen in the future also. When you think of all that you'll have built in the past and you sort of look forward, what are some key things for you in the future that you say, hey, these are some goals we're going after in terms of embassy group CSR, in terms of the impact you all want to create on ground?
So if I take education as one piece, I think we're long way away from creating a safe and sound infrastructure in the space we work. We've not really achieved even 10% of our work, even though we've been in the system. We've built 22 schools till date. We've done multiple repairs and upgrades of the year. It's not even made a dent in the system. So I think for us, we have a small motto internally is to say that every school that we touch, we ensure that nothing's broken in the school. So that piece continues to be one of the things that we will do going forward. The other piece is building resilience among the poorest of poor, right? The children are really in trouble health-wise. They're malnutrition, to say the least. There's so many diseases. So while we are doing the construction activities, our health programs needs to be much more stronger. And we saw that we had worked with 15 schools, COVID came. Those 15 schools, the children knew what is preventive healthcare.
Wow.
So how can we bring this to more children, right? So that's another area of work for us. Skilling is a big one. You find that Embassy as a group has one of the largest facility management arms called TCFM. We maintain airports, we maintain offices, homes, etc. But the quality of labor that we get is far from what it should be. So one of our aims is to work closely with the Department of Skilling and create a world-class center for the services industry in Karnataka. So we are already there. The land is allocated. We've helped design the master plan for the 14-acre campus. We've already tied up a couple of industry partners. We are now looking at how to create an ecosystem where it's not a government-run organization, but there's corporate partnership in it as well. So just like how the Bangalore International Airport Consortium works, where there is a corporate ownership, government ownership, and completely managed professionally like we would a private company. So that's the hope that we can create a platform where young adults can come and skill and then get into the industry. So yeah, we have a
Nice.
huge commitment to Asian Games and Olympics. So sports is a big one. So we'll continue that.
Beautiful. I think, I mean, education, skilling, you're really creating that pipeline to helping children get out of that cycle of poverty in one generation, right? Because if they can get an education, get that first job, and really
Yeah.
get into a space where they can grow is absolutely incredible. And I think that vision is a powerful vision, right? That's one worth driving towards.
Getting them past their higher studies and getting them
Yeah.
into jobs and holding them in jobs is another
Yeah.
area of concern for us. We've not really been successful as we have been constructing schools, right? So that's a very straightforward thing. You go in, you build, you come back. But the biggest challenge is getting children to ask for help.
Yeah.
So we're constantly talking to them, saying that, only when you ask will I be able to help you. And come and work. We will handhold you. We will mentor you and make sure that you settle down,
We've been, trying to build this piece on progressive mentoring, where you mentor a child from the age of 7 all the way to first job, and like you're saying, holding that first job to their mid-20s. And I think that just the child having a mentor, because they need as many voices guiding them along the way, because there are enough voices saying drop out of school. And it's not just voices, it's also society. It's the pressure of you need to become an earning member much earlier. So I think that progressive mentoring for us, we've seen as a game changer. And our goal is really, hey, can we do 100,000 kids in our progressive mentoring system in the next sort of 6-7 years? So yeah, so I can see that when you're saying, hey, can we get kids to not just get the job, but stay in that job? Is definitely something we're looking to crack. Yeah. Beautiful. I think thank you so much for sharing your journey. It's been absolutely amazing. One question for you is, if you could go back to sort of the beginning of your career, what would you say to young Shaina before she was getting ready to start all bright-eyed on her professional journey? What would you tell her if you were able to have a conversation with her?
So I would probably tell her to, I wish for her that she had known how large the problem was 15 years before she actually got into the space. And if she knew that, maybe she would have started earlier and done something more concrete. I mean, I've had an interesting journey. I've lived in different places, but I think what we do today, I wish we had more time. But it's humbling because as a corporate, as a donor, and as a team, each one of us are so driven. We're taking this in a very professional, we have reviews. We are treated like the sales division, like any other division. We have that much importance. And I hope that a lot of more corporates see this as something that they need to give back with design, not just cut a check and be involved in every step of the way. What I really struggle with, and this is something that I can share when I haven't spoken in any other forum about it, is the fragmented framework we work in. There is no structure, and there is sort of, each one's trying to do their bit, but it doesn't seem to fix the problem. And the government doesn't see it. And even if they see it, there isn't a roadmap given to, like I was telling you, for volunteering, can we mandate something? Similarly, for CSR, they have mandated certain areas where we can work. But I wish they would do it in geographies. They can say, okay, corporates in Karnataka, this is your 50% of your CSR funds. You need to give to these sections of the government where we will fix these issues, right? So I don't know when that policy change can happen, but if it does, I think you'll see a more structured growth, more accountability. And I hope they will let corporates, I hope they learn something from the way corporates run our businesses.
Yeah.
And sometimes help, allow us to help them to become more efficient and not so bureaucratic. And they lose so much time and energy, where the best minds in the departments that I work closely with are always firefighting. They're never strategizing. There is no strategic plan. There's no 3-year roadmap. There is no building people's skill. You always wonder, saying that, am I making the right, impact?
Yeah. Shaina, can I tell you, just from being on the NGO side, to hear someone, I think, from the corporate CSR space say that is extremely heartening. I think the intentionality you all have is definitely unique to the embassy group. And just having thought through all these pieces, right? Like we work with, 20, 30 different companies, and I love that you don't just have a vision for embassy CSR, like you have a vision that's larger than that. And I think if more players come to the table with that, then huge collaboration, and in that collaboration change happens, right? But that is truly inspiring. I love that, Shaina. Yeah, I just want to say your work is truly commendable, and we're so grateful for you opening up the space to talk about it. And just from the sidelines, know that we're cheering y'all on, and would love to see more volunteering, more schools built, more kids get into their first jobs, keep those jobs,
Yes, I hope
and
so
really
too.
break out of that cycle of poverty in our generation, so we could also get to see it, right?
And
So
I hope we get to chat offline and do some work
definitely,
together. Because whatever you said so far sort of makes so much sense. And I think
definitely,
we could work with you and see how best we can make this larger.
yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Definitely, Shaina. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in today. And it's been an absolute honor. I'm inspired and look forward to hearing more. Thank you, everyone.